Hi guys, you're listening to Ebird Online, and we're going to talk today about an issue which has been in the media an awful lot of late, and which I think previously didn't have an awful lot of traction in terms of the mainstream media, but of late we've heard it on BBC, we've seen it in The Guardian, we've even seen it in the Daily Mail, and that issue is colorism. So for those of you who are unsure, colorism is defined by the Oxford Dictionary as prejudice or discrimination against individuals with a dark skin tone, typically among people of the same ethnic group. So today I'm going to discuss the issues around colorism, and more specifically the issues of how colorism affects dark-skinned black women. Guys, thank you to all of you who have supported me and all of you who have subscribed already. If you haven't done so, please press that red button now. Just click subscribe for regular content and regular videos. So let's get into it. So this week Twitter and social media has gone absolutely mad because Yewande spoke on the issue of colorism on Radio 1 Extra. So Yewande sparked quite a fierce debate about colorism, and she said that she didn't step forward for Sharif Lonray in the villa because she knew he'd end up preferring a lighter skinned girl like Amber, and there was a divide right down the middle, usually guys on one side and girls on the other. So on the radio talk she actually said, when Sharif walked in I was like, I don't think we're going to get on. Straight away I didn't even step forward because I knew he's probably not even going to like me. And then she went on to say, with black men they usually like light skinned women, and obviously Amber was by my side, so I was like, what's the point of even stepping forward? And in the end he did end up picking Amber, and when he had to couple up again he picked Anna. So I was like, we're not going to get on. So then the host said, so you already had that in your mind when you saw him? And she said, yeah, well it's not really a villa thing, it's more of a society thing, a society issue. So what I want to do for this video is basically look at both sides of the argument. Does colorism really exist? If it does, are black women right to call out black men on colorism? Is it just a case of preference? Everybody should be able to get out with whoever they want, right? We shouldn't be told who we should fancy. Then I'm going to give you my view and put forward my ideas for moving forward with this issue. So there have been so many tweets about Yewande, and here are a few of the most interesting comments from both sides of the argument. So we have from @_NatBell, says most of the time black girls can tell when a black guy only dates white women or non-black women. Most of the time it's always correct. Let's not lie to ourselves, our good sis Yewande was right. And I gotta tell you, the Ebird caught this flex from Danny. When I saw him I knew he was going to be there maybe for a mixed race girl, but I really didn't see him with a black girl. And then @Isis Louise, this is deep. I definitely agree. I feel like I can tell when black men aren't attracted to black women because I feel uneasy around those types of black men. Can't fully explain it, but there's an awkward energy. It's almost like you can tell they're disgusted by you. This is crazy. This is going in super deep. And then we have from @Ali, self-hating black men and colorist black people coming for you one day speaking about her own experiences is disappointing but not surprising. You're acting like colorism isn't a real issue. The truth has you so mad. So black women really do feel strongly about this issue, but as we see from the following tweets, so do black men, and they see it significantly differently. Heart of West 3000 says Amber is simply better looking than Yewande, nothing to do with skin colour. This Twitter place is a waffle, crying over everything. And then Centrum says, okay, when it's all said and done, she ain't the most pretty black girl to even be selected from. Why don't we start with that? Guys go for looks more than anything. Black or white doesn't matter. If you look good with and without makeup, you shouldn't have a problem. I rest my case. And then Don't At Me said she behaved towards him based on her insecurity and internalized expectation, and in turn he responded to her based on that. She literally created her own colorism reality. Lol. Not that colorism isn't real, but she made it real in that villa, and that's the story of many black men. So some of these comments are quite insidious. Yewande brought this up in response to a question, and I feel as if lots of people are saying, oh, she's just moaning, she's complaining. Somebody asked her a question, and instead of doing the usual Love Island thing and brushing over issues, she answered them head on in her own truth. But there's more to this than meets the eye. The last tweet that we heard there, where the guy said that she'd brought it on herself, and Sharif in turn responded to that, I think is very wide of the mark. I think Yewande took one look at Sharif and saw exactly what the Ebird saw, a road boy from South London that she probably wasn't going to like anyway. So far from it just being the fact that she thought Sharif wouldn't like her, I don't think that she for one moment liked him. And I'm not sure how much Sharif knew before going into the villa. We all knew that there was this African scientist going in who went to university at the age of 16. If Sharif did know that, she's possibly the least likely that he would step forward for. I think on behalf of both of them, there were negative signals. For my part, I couldn't tell if Sharif liked black girls or not, the truth be told, but very similar to Yewande, I probably wasn't that concerned. If Yewande did pick up this interest from Sharif, it wasn't necessarily because she was black, I think, in this instance. So colorism isn't just an issue for black people. We have colorism in India, in China, in most societies where there are dark-skinned people, the lighter-skinned people are usually favoured over the darker-skinned people. And what proof do we have for this? Well, we have the anecdotal proof. So skin lightening creams are favoured mainly by women in black and Asian communities. And the World Health Organization estimates that 77% of Nigerian women use skin lightening creams. So creams are primarily used by women and not men. And why is this? Because we find that quite often it's okay to be a dark-skinned man, but less okay to be a dark-skinned woman. But let's not get it twisted. Colorism affects us all. And this is just a quick stat from the US, and it's basically on average hourly wages. So as we see at the top, if you have white skin, your average hourly wage is $15.94, and this goes down to $14.72 with light skin. With medium toned skin, we're on $13.23, but if you have dark skin, your average hourly wage is £11.72, and that's just average across both sexes, so it is an issue for men and women. Also, there are other studies which have been done, and darker skinned men and women are given longer prison sentences than their light skinned counterparts. And this discrimination starts young. If you're a dark-skinned girl, you are 3 times more likely to be suspended from school than your light-skinned peers. So we have the studies. But what other evidence do we have? Well, let's take celebrities. We all know that most of our female celebrities are usually light-skinned. So from Beyonce to Rihanna and Nicki Minaj, it seems that in the music industry, light skin pays off. And if you look at a lot of women at the top of their game in this industry, you will see they get lighter and lighter and lighter the longer their career goes on. They don't just decide to do this. There's a reason for that. There's a direct correlation between record sales and lighter skin. There's no doubt in Ebird's mind that colorism is definitely real, but it is for a lot of black people the great unspoken. So loads of people just daren't say anything about colorism, otherwise they're accused of gloating or ignoring things they're light, or being jealous or bitter if they're dark skinned. So it's one of those topics that's really divisive. One of my personal bugbears with this is when sometimes dark-skinned women act as if this is the fault of light-skinned women. You're born whatever skin colour you are, and you're born however tall or short or good-looking you are. And so if someone is more desirable, how can it be that person's fault? That person isn't making the beauty rules, that person is just existing in the confines of those rules. And I think as a feminist, this kind of attitude I find really divisive. However, everybody likes to be heard. And so when people dismiss this, or when people put it down to jealousy or bitterness, it's almost like a form of racial gaslighting. It's as if someone's saying your feelings and your experiences aren't valid. I think that you're bringing this all on yourself. So what are the excuses for colorism? Give me all your excuses so the Ebird can put them in the palm of her hand and rip them to shreds one by one. So lots of guys, especially guys that are colorists, say girls are just jealous and they're bitter. I've got a very good friend, and she's a beautiful dark-skinned girl. And when I say beautiful, I mean she's a knockout, she's stunning. And although she has dated both black and white, definitely more white guys step to her than black guys. She's happily married to a multimillionaire, and she says, yes, colorism is really real. She's got no reason to be bitter. She's winning. She's got no reason to make up stories. She's busy flying around the world first class. So there's this really unhelpful narrative of people trying to get everybody to believe that there's this big, fat, black, really deeply unattractive person hunched over YouTube colorism videos 24/7, dreaming up this colorist world in their own mind. And yes, I find it to be bullshit. If that's what you want to think, go ahead, choose your own adventure, choose your own reality. But whether people are good looking or not so good looking, whether people are fit and fabulous or fat and flatulent, it's the story of lots and lots of dark-skinned women that colorism exists. Now, this isn't all dark-skinned women, and loads of people haven't really felt or had this experience. whilst I was doing this video, I showed one of my good friends, a guy, the stats and the figures for black women getting married and mixed race women getting married and prison sentences and the like, and he was genuinely surprised. And I thought, wow, how nice it must be to be shocked by colorism. And he likes his dark skinned girls, so he brought up an excellent point, which was everybody's getting tarred with the same brush for the actions of some people. And he also brought up another point, which was the old gem, it's a case of preference. Now, I'm a big believer, love is love, it knows no colour. I've told you before, Ebird loves love, Ebird loves being in love, Ebird wants everybody to be in love. So I'm not really a proponent of people that say you should stick to your own, or people should go out with a specific colour or type of person. However, just glibly saying it's a preference kind of ignores the underlying problem. And to me, the underlying problem is if we're saying ourselves as black people, we prefer lighter skinned people, how can we really argue with white people if they're racist? Because they're just doing the same. But all you people out there that are saying it's just a preference, deep this. Imagine you finish your degree, you get your amazing job in the city, and finally you've hit that job in an investment bank, you're feeling really real. You're there a year and you go for promotion. Your performance has been exemplary. Subprime mortgages have never been this popular. And who knew that acquiring somebody else's life savings could make you feel so good and make you so much money? You've had really good rapport, everybody loves you. You go for your promotion, there's you, one black person and 5 other white people. On this occasion, another white person gets it. Cut to 5 years later, and each year when you go for the same promotion, a white person gets it. And then you come to the conclusion, all of these people were not necessarily better than me. Maybe there's something I'm doing, maybe there's something I missed. You go into your boss, is there a problem with my performance? Is there something I'm doing which means I'm consistently getting overlooked? Is there anything I need to change? You know, we're proper people now, we don't go in effing and blinding. So your boss looks you dead in the eye and says, oh no, it's just if I've got a management team together, I'd rather that they all be white. Nothing against you whatsoever, it's just my preference. Yeah, a pregnant pause there. The Ebird would have dollar signs flashing around her eyes, because I would know I'm going straight to ACAS and you're going to give me 3 or 4 times my yearly wage because you've discriminated against me. Back in the real world, of course, no boss would be stupid enough to say it. But if you really feel it and think it, does it mean then that your thoughts should be invalidated? And does it mean that it's okay if he just wants a certain type of person on his management team? Because that's just his preference. We wouldn't really buy it, would we? And when we do have to buy it, we're making noise. So to me, I see it as exactly the same thing. There's no point just saying it's my preference. If that is your preference, you have to at least examine it. Some people's preference, both men and women, prefer to date white people. If you only want to date one race, you have to think to yourself, why is that? What is that reason? And whilst I'm not saying to you, you shouldn't be doing it, at least examine it and at least acknowledge there's an issue. I do think that whilst Yuande wasn't wrong necessarily about Sharif, and it's interesting to note that Sharif hasn't come out at all to defend himself, to say anything on this issue, and also we all know about the video that Sharif took part in on Instagram, so we're not really team Sharif at the moment. I would have looked at Sharif and thought exactly the same thing, but we're not always right. We all know there've been times when you've walked in a job interview and thought, oh my god, everybody's white with blonde hair, I have no chance of getting this job. If you're confident in yourself, I believe you can get whatever it is you want. But whatever it is you want is unlikely to be Sharif. And it's not just me saying that, just ask the producers at ITV. Best foot forward. So we have to really live by that mantra. Overall, I agree with what you one day said, but I think really how it came out was slightly wrong. Most black guys prefer lighter skinned women. We don't know figures. It's really unfair to suggest figures. And also, let's not forget, you're really tarring loads of people with a certain brush. So I think lots of black guys got really irritated thinking, I'm going out with a light skinned girl now, I went out with a black girl before, but I'm catching shit walking down the street and I'm being branded a colorist because of my decision on this one person I'm dating. And that's unfair. And also black women have to look at themselves again, because part of attraction is confidence. And I genuinely do find that where you find a confident woman, you will find your suitor. Where you have an unconfident woman who believes that people believe her not to be good looking, whether she is or not, you're going to throw that out there. So I don't want to say, oh, I blame any black woman that's single, but there's definitely always ways to try and win in this crazy game of love. But I would like to finish on saying, like I said to the Love Island producers when they were trying to ram Molly May and Tommy down our throats, don't overplay your hand because we'll take our ball back home. And I think it's a very real possibility that if this trend for the whole light-skinned women continues and grows, then we'll see a rise of black women going out with different races. And whilst that's not a bad thing, I want it to be for the right reasons, i.e. you like that person, not as a protest vote against black men or what you perceive some black men are doing. I will say one thing in Yewande's defence, she was just asked a question and she answered it off the cuff. I don't think she meant to go into an interview and have a colorism debate. Do you guys think Yewande was right? Do you guys think that she could have phrased it slightly better? But my parting thought is, when I looked at Danny, I genuinely thought he will go out with a really very light mixed race girl or a white girl. And when it seemed as if he was genuinely hooking up with Jordan and in love and wanting to get married, I was like, wow, I got that kind of wrong. Even though she has quite Eurocentric features, I still think she's quite dark. However, I opened my paper this weekend to discover that he likes Arabella again. What a surprise. And that's the take home point from this. Very often black women can look at you and see if there's any interest in black women or not. And before anybody says anything, it's not really a sixth sense, it's just years of practice. Right, so guys, let me know what you think. Let me know if you think that it's just a preference, it's nobody's business who goes out with who, and let me know if you think that colorism is real or if you think it's imagined or exaggerated. I'd love everyone to join in this debate and put forth your point of view. Please remember, whatever your point of view is, keep it civil. We don't want any insults or any name calling, so be really careful when phrasing what you think another group does. I can't talk for all black women, I can only talk for me, and my experience of colorism isn't that great, unfortunately, but I do know what Yewande means when she knows you can look at somebody and you know which way they go. In my mind, colorism is really real, and for people that say Yewande has brought on her own colorism, Yewande has brought this on herself, imagine being told there's no racism or any racism that's directed to you is entirely your fault. And for some white people, they think if they're not racist themselves and they don't keep the company of other racist people, they wouldn't necessarily see it. And it's the same thing. If you're not colorist yourself and you're not the recipient of other people's colorism, then why would you really notice? Guys, if you like this video and the content, please don't forget to like and subscribe. I will be covering a wide range of different topics now that Love Island has come to an end. So what are you waiting for? Press the red button. You've been listening to Ebird Online. Ciao for now.